Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for getting out here in this weather. It's ironic that we're talking about stress because while I was driving here, I got stuck on the motorway, and that's a stress response straight away. So you can see by the absolute steadiness of my hand, there's the adrenaline still pumping because it's like, I've got to make it, I've got to get here. So we'll be talking today about the whole sort of fight, flight, and kind of the rest and repair of how your body goes between those two sorts of variations. I'll just get the controller. Oh, there we go. So just a little touch on myself and Raine. As Kay said, I'm the clinic director of Insight Healthcare just up the road here. And I did my master's degree in osteopathy here in Auckland. I'm also the chair of Osteopaths New Zealand. And I do some operational work for an NGO which is called Hands with Hearts. And that's where osteopaths and physios and other health professionals go and treat children with really severe disabilities around the world. I started doing that a few years ago, so it's a really great thing to do a few times a year. Meanwhile, Raine has a huge background in traditional Chinese medicine long before they came to New Zealand. Working in Beijing hospitals and come to New Zealand, did their master's degree in osteopathy. So they're kind of double black belt in acupuncture and osteopath, which I think is possibly only person in New Zealand. I'm not too sure exactly, but they've got a whole skill set that's very unique in our profession. So let's talk about stress, because that's what you're all here, and hopefully none of you are too stressed right now because it's a nice quiet Sunday afternoon. But stress works for us. It does actually serve a purpose. It has a job. It is the smoke alarm for your body. So when things are going wrong, stress is supposed to kick in. And that's where it's got a couple of different versions or levels to it. And that first level is just straight up a dose of adrenaline. That's when your body recognizes there's a major problem and you need to be able to act. So if you want to go real basic, the lion has burst out of the tree line. And your brain says, well, the only way this big lump of meat is going to survive is if I dump a bunch of chemicals through the body and tell it to run like hell. So that's the result of the first few seconds of your stress response. And that's just the sympathetic system. Then you've got your secondary system. That kicks in when your body recognizes that, oh, this isn't just a quick, I've got to run for it. This is I have to keep going for an hour or two. I've got to stay on top of things, and this person needs to stay alert. If the brain is going to be protected, it's got to be ready to act. And that's when the next section kicks in, and that's your HPA axis, which is a very nice, easy way of saying the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal. So your adrenal cortex, your adrenaline, that part of your body, it's actually got a couple of layers to it. And one layer gives you the real quick kick, and another layer is the one that says, okay, now we need a bit of a slow burn, but we still need to stay on top of things. And when finally that's all finished, and you have finally calmed down, and everything's over, you then hit the recovery phase. We're not looking to be permanently calm. We're not living in a monastery somewhere, able to just breathe and be at one with the universe. The body recognizes it's got stress and it's going to need to react to things, and that's not a problem. The problem is when we don't recover. So that is your pre-stress. That is getting ready. There's going to be 50 kids to this birthday party. You know stuff is coming, so your body's beginning to hype itself up. Then there's the party, and that's when that slow burn of the stress has kicked in. You are surviving at this point. And that's one of the key things here. You're just surviving. You're not getting better. You're not improving yourself in any way, shape or form. You are just getting to the finish line. And if life goes well and no children have ended up in the hospital, you get to have a cup of coffee at the end of it. The house is kind of cleaner, but basically you are now in recovery mode. But that's not what happens in most of our day-to-day lives. We start with the demand or the perceived threat, and the brain's very good at deciding that for you. There's not a lot of times when you get to go, this is a problem, I'm going to get anxious. Your brain is the one that decides that this is a problem and I'm going to get anxious for you, and I'm going to start dumping chemicals through your body as quick as possible. Now, as long as you get to recover, that's fine. But in this day and age, what generally happens is there's a new stress. There's a new demand. You've gotten up in the morning and the kids needed to get out of the house. You've gotten into the car to head to work and the traffic's a bit mucky. You finally made it to work and there's another 50 emails that you haven't even had a chance to look at from last night. Then you're heading home, traffic's pretty crappy, and you get a call that you need to pick up one of the kids because sport's been cancelled. It's that continual hit after hit after hit. So you don't get to recover, and your body recognises that. And so your body creates this whole circle where it just says there's another threat, let's dump some more chemicals into the body. Now, as long as those chemicals are running, everything in your body says, we don't have time for sleep, we don't have time to digest, and we don't have time to repair things because we have to keep going. And what that creates is basically the old classic snake chewing its tail, because that leads to problems like poor sleep, which leads to fatigue, which leads to your body not doing so well. And this is where the brain becomes a bit nasty, because it stops listening to the exterior output of your life saying this is stressful, and it starts listening to the interior of your body that says we're tired, we're not feeling very well. And so the brain goes, well, better keep the stress hormones running because you need that push to keep going. And that just leads this nice circle of sleeplessness and tiredness. And that's not an uncommon sight for a work environment. Obviously a bit too much paper now. You don't see that much paper in an office anymore. But that is kind of what's going on in your brain in a constant cycle. There's two sides to the body-brain feedback. Your brain recognizes when your heart rate should be raised. My heart rate got raised because I needed to find a car park and get down here. So the brain says, yep, you had to run a bit, your heart rate should be pushed up a bit, and that's fine. But if you're just sitting at home and you're worried about a loved one who's in hospital and your heart rate naturally starts increasing, the brain doesn't know why that's happening. So it just says, okay, let's assume this is a stress problem, so we'll dump some chemicals in the body to help with that. So even during these quiet times, you might be sitting here now on a nice Sunday afternoon, but there's probably still stuff bubbling in the back of your brain about what's got to be done on Monday, or washing that needs to be done when you get home, or any of 100 other things. So the trick is getting your body back into recovery, and that's hard. I think the speaker this morning, the professor, was specifically around that kind of getting your body back on track. There's no switch. You can't sit here right now and just say, gosh, he's right, I should be less stressed. I'll just be less stressed. I'll try not to think about that, because that doesn't work. This talk's a bit too tight for me to come and tell you all of the possible things you could do to reduce your stress. But at a really basic level, the simplest thing is breathing, because we don't tend to do it very well. There's people whose professional job it is to teach you how to breathe again properly. I've had one of my best patients was a professional breathing retrainer, and when I was working on her, it sounded like a steam train, because she was just every time I did anything. But it worked, because everything I touched, the muscles turned to butter. She was just, it was great. But at a very basic level, you are telling your brain, if I breathe in for 4 seconds, but then I take 6 seconds to breathe out, we are in a calm place. And you are forcing that information to your brain. So if you just do that for 30 seconds, that's a good start. There's a reason why in meditation there's a lot of breathing, because breathing does actually control the racing of your pulse, the movement of your heart. It's a reason why during labour you're given very specific ways to breathe, to get through the labour, to control your breath and to control your stress. Movement's always good. Anything that gets your body moving, it means it's a normal way for your heart to be moving. Your heart goes, oh yep, we're beating, we're supposed to do this. We're pretty healthy. Muscle's supposed to be moving like this. Sleep's massive. And unfortunately, sleep's one of the main one that gets disrupted when we have too much stress. And it's the hardest one to fix in many ways. If you go online, there's going to be 500 different ways to get better sleep. The thing is, a lot of this has to all work together. There's no point going to bed and going, right now I need to sleep well, after being on your iPad for an hour and a half watching some TV show you really liked. There's a whole thing around sleep hygiene. Funny name, sleep hygiene, but that's what they refer it to, and it's just how well you look after your sleep. And finally, it's just relationships, of course. When I say just, probably one of the most difficult ones. It's your relationships with people around you, but also your brain's recognition of threat. So anything in your life that has been threatening, your brain keeps this great little journal of it. And every time something like that happens, your brain goes, oh, hold on. Oh yeah, that. Yeah, we didn't like that. Stress. And again, you don't get a choice in that. Your brain recognizes it and just does it. And why is this a problem? Stress ages you. Stress makes you old. There's a reason why your first grey hairs probably kicked in when your children were around. I know that's when my first grey hairs came in. It's called allostatic load, and it's literally the amount of stuff we're dumping on our body over time. And that ultimately there's a huge part of it that is to do with stress. There's a whole lot around it. There's genetics, there's nutrition, there's so many things, but stress does play a major role in it. And that's probably the best example you can have. Okay? There's such thing as chronological age and biological age, and they're very different. They don't equal each other. Okay? You've got your 1950s car that's been well maintained and looking gorgeous, and that's like a 2022 Holden. Looking like crap. It's not going to last much longer. In another 10 years, it is not going to be going well. So there is a difference there. We all age, we all will get to a final point, but the quality of your body is hugely different. And Raine and I see that every day with patients that we see. You could have a 65-year-old person come in that is really quite bent over and tired and frail looking. And one of our osteopaths is nearly 80, and he's like a piece of teak. I could drop him off a cliff and he'd probably bounce. It's incredible. That guy. The picture is him from a 2004 marathon, but the last marathon I think he ran was 2011 at the age of 100. Guinness couldn't give him a certificate for it because he couldn't pull out his birth certificate. Because funnily enough, back in 1910 in India, he probably didn't get a birth certificate. But that's, even if you allow, let's say, a decade possibility fudging numbers, we're still talking about somebody in their 90s that ran a marathon. I couldn't do that now. So this is where we get to maintenance rather than breakdown. And that is exactly what you do for your car. Because you know if you take your car with something broken, you'll get a lot of humming and hawing from your mechanic and then a $4,000 bill. If you take your car in to go, can I get it checked? You may still get some humming and hawing from the mechanic, but hopefully it's more like a $1,000 bill. In New Zealand, we are so bad at maintenance. Our whole health system is not really based around maintenance. We're based around fix it when it's broken. It's quite common in a few other countries. I've got a friend in Korea. He can go to a clinic for about $300 and have an ultrasound of his heart and see exactly what it's looking like. Any narrowing, anything like that, and for another $300 or $400, they'll do the angioplasty and clean everything out. You're good to go. You won't get that in New Zealand. One of my team, her daughter's a cardio ultrasound tech, and the only people she sees are people that have had heart attacks. That's it. So there's no preventative stuff. And that's where we talk about other parts of stress, which is where Raine's going to start chatting.
Thank you, Morgan. Explain the physiological theory behind stress. Now I'm going to share with you some practical and actionable techniques you're going to take home to reset your nervous system. So mainly 3 parts. First one, I'm going to give you some tests, and I'm going to give you, see if you see yourself in the stress condition, if you see your nervous system is under fight flight condition or under the rest or repair. So if you are under stress, I'm going to give you some technique you can take home to do. And another thing is, I'm going to tell you as osteopaths and as acupuncturists what we can do to help you. Sitting here, all of you, anyone to under stress, currently, honestly to yourself. You don't have to put up your hands, but honest to yourself if you are under stress or not. I bet most of you come here because you want to listen how to deal with that, right? So have a look at this chart. I'm not sure if you can see that clearly. In the middle is you. Around your close family, your partnership, your personal finance, your health condition, your sleeping, and your home responsibility. And around there is your boater friends, your work stress, your parents, your siblings, your rent mortgage, and household mortgage, child care, school, something like that. And you have alter obligation and alter pressures. Where are you? Where is your stress come from? Is your stress come from yourself, or is your stress come from something around you, or actually you worry about something you should not worry about? If you worry something you should not worry about, write down. Put on the mirror. Whenever, every day when you get up, you brush your teeth, you see that, I'm worried something I'm not worried about. Give your brain, emphasize that information. For a while, you're going to change. Another thing, if you worry about yourself, see if you have argued with your partner, and you keep worrying, are you able to change? No, you can't. You can't change something, then don't worry about. I will not just simply tell you don't worry about that, because you can't do that. You're going to go home, lying on the bed, and you try to sleep, but your mind is still racing, right? So by worrying something you cannot change, what are you going to do? 2 things you can do. First, you're going to set a time. So tell yourself you're going to do this worry in a certain time. For example, you're going to thinking about your parents in the hospital or something you can't change. You tell yourself, I'm going to thinking about from 12 to 12:30 tomorrow. That is, yeah, some people, I hear that. But if you try to do this, you're going to trick your brain. You not keep worrying all the time, 24 hours a day. If you, before you sleep, you lie on your back, and you keep, my dad in the hospital, and so you can't change, then you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to think about my dad tomorrow, 12 to 12:30. You're not selfish. You're not irresponsible for your dad. And you tell your brain, you tell your heart, I'm going to do this in a certain time. So trick your brain. And the second thing is, you're going to link something you cannot change to something you can change. So trick your brain, another thing. Make them a link. For example, when I initially came to New Zealand, I applied resident visa. Usually people with medical background takes 4 months on average, got the residence. I got 6 months. So during that long time, I was keep worrying. I couldn't get proper sleep. I keep worry about that. What did I do? I tried to link, I'm going to run 5,000 a day. Keep doing that. and I'll make a chart. I put on the wall. Today I run 5,000. Tomorrow I run 5,000. I make a target. If I'm going to run 100,000, I'm going to get a resident visa. Am I going to? Probably not. But I make something link in there, and I trick my brain. Keep focus on something you cannot change. Focus on something you can change. You get what I mean? So after I'm doing that, for a month, I got immigration give me a call and give me an email and ask some questions, some simple question, and I got my resident visa. Before I ran 5,000 kilometers. So that's the practical things you can try after you go back home. Second one, someone who hasn't put up your hands, you can use this test. Here is a chart. There is a vagus nerve. What is vagus nerve? We have 12 pairs cranial nerves in our skull. 12 pairs. They are supplied to our eyes, supplied to our nose, supplied to something organs around your skull. Vagus nerve is only one nerve come out of your skull. You can see supply all the way down your organ and to your gut. Why showing this? Because lots of my patients come tell me, I got IBS. What is IBS? Inflammatory bowel disease syndrome. Yes, your doctor give you a label. Tell you, hey, you got this problem, and you go back home. There anything we can do? No, we can't. There's something happening in your brain. People tell you anxiety and depression, and give you medication to take. Yes, you go back home to take that. Are you feeling better? Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Because the cause is here. If they have done colonoscopy, if they have done the test of your feces and haven't detected any pathological conditions, then your bowel symptoms is a functional problem. Where is a functional problem? Yes, it's coming from your brain, but that doesn't mean you mind. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean you have some mental issue. It means your brain is used to that way connection. So what we can do? We're going to thinking about our logic thinking. What are you going to do? Try the two techniques I told you before. Another thing is, because that connected to your gut, how is your bacteria in your gut? Do you have normal bowel movement? And I ask my patient, hey, do you have normal bowel movement? Usually people tell me yes. But what is normal bowel movement? You should have that every day. You should have as long as your own forearm. You should have firm. You should have good color and good condition. That tells you if you are under stress. That tells you if your nerve is doing proper job. Are we clear? So, if you have something called either constipation or diarrhea, sometimes between each other and sometimes good, sometimes not. And if you're under this condition, you're going to try these things I told you. What we can do as osteopaths and acupuncture, we clear the pathway in there. For example, if vagus nerve come all the way down along these muscles, if your muscle get tight, it can affect your nerve function, yes. If it's going all the way to your heart, to the lung, Morgan told you about breathing exercise. Did you do that? Why you need to do that? Because the nerve go all the way down through your diaphragm. Above your diaphragm is your heart and the lung. Under your diaphragm is your liver and your stomach. By breathing exercise, you actually change the diaphragm elasticity. Diaphragm is muscle. If, like you go to gym, you're doing the biceps. Our diaphragm is a muscle. You need to keep training that as well. If your diaphragm is not doing the proper things, you're going to have some vagus nerve problem, or you're going to have either heart issue, or you're going to have lung issue. Yes, you go to see cardiatrists. They check your heart, they check your organs. If you don't have any problem, you need to check your nerve. and this is the way. Another test you can do, if you are sitting in front of a computer like this every day, you probably feel tight neck, tight lower back, or tight anywhere. And you go to do massage, you go to do heat pack, you do whatever things you can do, but after a week, you feel tight again. Why is that? Because your nerve system is in a long condition of fight flight and cannot help you to recover from tight muscles. You see, you're thinking about just my muscle getting tight, so what? That means a lot. That means you cannot focus on something properly. That means your memory going to lose. That means your clinical not clinical thinking, we do clinical thinking. You do critical thinking, something going to decrease. So I give you some brochure. You can have, some people have this. Here's the test you can do at home. Single leg racing. Anyone who don't have brochure? No. So you can do this test at home. Are you able simply sitting down and stand up easily without any holding things? If you can do that, that means you don't have too much tension around your knee, around your lower back. If you are under 30 years old, you should be able to do single leg to do that. Are you able to do that? If not, your nerve control these organs, control these movement, muscles, and joints. People come in and tell me, hey, I got arthritis. Why you got arthritis? Because you didn't do this maintenance. Your joint is getting changed because this muscle get weakness. That is a process. If you know why you're going to have this and you're going to stop doing that, that will prevent it happen. Another thing is, so sit, raising, chair, sit to stand, and single leg balance. There are a lot of texts you can do. These are just simple things. And if you only can remember one thing today, I want you to remember stress is not merely emotional problem. It is a pathological nervous system state. Your healing, your repair, only start under the condition your parasympathetic nerve system dominate. Yes, we explain sympathetic, parasympathetic. Sympathetic like you fight flight, parasympathetic like you relax and digest. So we have that kind of nervous system. You remember that? If you're under stress, it doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you have mental issue. It means your physiological nervous system overactivate. You can change. What you can do? I told you that 2 things, remember? And Morgan told you breathing, remember? And if you're trying these kind of things, you're feeling, I'm getting better, but I still have a loopy something I want to change. You can come to our clinic. What we can do, according to a lot of research, by doing acupuncture on a certain point, it can help you reduce your inflammation. A lot of research, I'm not showing it here. And also, if you come to see us, we actually not hiding the symptom, we don't give you medication. We're going to find the true cause. Where is your vagus nerve stopped, trapped, and then we're going to release that. So there is some exercise you can do. By breathing exercise, you can use your hand. If you're interested, you can do with me together. You're going to use your hand around your lower ribs. Why you put your hand around your lower ribs? Because when you're doing this, you give your brain another emphasis. I'm going to use this. Then you just breathe normally. When you're breathing, do you feel your ribs going that way? Right? If you don't put your hand in there, you breathe. You may not. You may yes. If you're not, that means you're going to keep doing this. You're going to train your muscle habit. Our muscle has habit. You're going to train your diaphragm, start using around here. Remember the diaphragm? Where is the vagus nerve connected? You're going to try to do this. And the pattern is you're going to breathe in 4 seconds, inhalation 4 seconds, hold 2 seconds, exhalation 6 seconds. The key important things is your exhalation is longer than the inhalation. That will activate your vagus nerve. That will activate your parasympathetic nerve system. Okay? By doing this, once is not important. Once it will not work. You have only to do 9 times. Breathe in 4, hold, breathe out 6. That is 1 time. You're going to do this 9 times, and that's enough to give your brain information to make that change. After you do this 9 times, you relax your hand, and you breathe in again. You're going to feel your diaphragm doing that naturally, okay? Second exercise, you can, like doing this, put behind you, and you're going to open your chest like this. Why is that? Because our sympathetic nerve system from T1 to L2, T1 to L2, that area is always tight when you're in that position. If you're in that position, you actually activate your sympathetic nerve system. And that will tell your brain, I need to alert all the time. If you're doing this, you release your sympathetic nerve system, and you're going to just hold that in that position. And you breathe normally about 10 seconds. You do that 2 times whenever you're from computer or you watch TV at home, and do that 2 times. That help you relax. Okay? Last exercise is more here. We call that suboccipital. This is where your parasympathetic nerve system, where is your parasympathetic nerve system come out your skull a little bit to your C1. So if people feel headache, touch here, you're going to feel tight. People feel brain fog, you touch there, migraine, something, and you touch here, you're going to feel a little bit tight. And then what you can do, you see a lot of people doing that, you're going to bring your chin like that. That was just a simple movement that can activate your parasympathetic nerve system around there. Okay? So again, you have 2 techniques, change your thinking, link your unchangeable things and your changeable things together. Another thing, if you vary something, vary at a certain time instead of 24 hours all the time. Give your brain a little bit time to relax. And you're going to have these 3 exercises to do. Breathing exercise, stretch your T-spine, and relax your C-spine. Okay? Thank you for listening.
I find a bit of resistance sometimes.
Yeah, that's always a good indicator. Yeah.
It's like, this is breathing, why am I resisting this? Why can't I push it through? But it's the whole sound code of the issue, I think. But fantastic. Now, I wonder if you had time for some questions from the floor, if you're all right. If you've got some questions for Raine or for Morgan, just address them by name and ask the question.
Yeah, otherwise we'll get you to do exercises for 10 minutes. No, we were that thorough. We are pretty thorough. It's all good. If you look at what we gave you on the back of it, it's got the 3, you could call them exercises, but they're what's called functional tests. And they give you an idea of how well you're physically doing, basically. So something like standing on 1 foot, and there might be some wobble in your foot, but you should be able to comfortably do that for sort of 30 seconds. And if you find after 10 or 15 seconds you're off and drifting, that's a problem. So that's what those things on the back there are. Some simple sit to stand. It's a really basic one, arms crossed, just standing up and down on a chair as much as you can. And you're supposed to be able to do a certain amount of reps. And again, if you can't make those reps or you're getting all wobbly, that's a problem. It's kind of neat little party trick stuff to do. Just go home and get the kids to do it. See how well they do. They'll be on one leg, eyes closed, going, whoo, yeah, You'll try the same thing and you'll just be like, that's the second level, eyes closed, eyes open. Anything else? Oh, one last thing, real quick question to ask yourself. Those are a good am I stressed? Because it's so easy to sit there and go, no, I'm all right, I'm okay. I think I'm pretty good. I reckon that's one of the best ones. Do you actually feel rested after sleep, or you just feel less tired? Do you get out of bed going, yeah, I'm pretty good? And then, that, as Raine was saying, worrying about stuff you can't change, that's a real rabbit hole. And that final one, are you actually getting better, or are you just surviving? Because that's what most of us just do, we survive. So they're worth just asking yourselves. And if you're saying yes to several of those, like as in negative, it's like, yeah, I am actually just waking up less tired. You just, again, you recognise that there's something that probably needs to be addressed in your life. And that's where the Raine's bigger circle thing can help. Because we're a project. You've given yourself, you were born, and you gave yourself a lifetime project of keeping yourself going. And all the decisions you make up to that time is pretty much what decides how well your life runs, especially in your later years. We get to blow off a lot of stuff in our 20s. You get given the bill in your 50s. Yeah. It's quite common for you guys to rock into our clinic and be like, my knee hurts, but I didn't hurt my knee. And it's like, so did you have a snowboarding accident when you were 22? Oh yeah, I completely blew the whole thing up. Right. Yeah. Oh, but I was fine after 12 months. Yeah. There's the bill. Yeah. Anyway, it's been great talking to you guys. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming in.